Today we are speaking about how to enhance the operative processes with data and analytics. And it's really interesting subject, and hopefully you are also thinking of how to optimize the processes in your companies and in the daily work, and using the data and analytics on that one. I have this slogan: it's more important than ever to have correct information, the right time and context. We have been running this digital transformation quite a long time already. I think this kind of digi-wording has been come to the end already, but it's still important that I think that you have all built some kind of data capabilities already. You have some kind of data platforms, and you are utilizing the data in the daily work, and even analyzing the data. However, the world is changing fast, and it's, I think, changing faster than ever. And we all have pressure to develop these capabilities further, to answer the speed of change. I have lifted up a couple of things which is driving this subject on the companies. There might be, or there is actually many other ones, but I think 3 themes what I have seen when I'm talking with my customers. First is the dynamic business landscape. I think the world is more dynamic. It's really complicated and unstable, and it has lasted kind of like a couple of years already, or few years already. And companies are pressured to make fast decisions and react on changes. Decision making has to be also, or needs to become much more connected in all levels, sharing the data and insight across the organizations, and not only inside of their own organization, but involving the whole ecosystem where you are working on. And the boundaries of these organizations are vanishing. Customer behavior. I think customers are getting more demanding. At least I see from my behavior how I'm kind of demanding customer. And they are more critical of the services and products what companies are offer. And mainly that, I think the thing is that customers have so much things to choose. They can investigate a lot from the internet beforehand, see the recommendations and stuff like that. And they are wanting the personalized customer experience, and let's see that, we see that the customer experience has also come as a competitive thing on the market. Sustainability. I think every company has now in their strategy the sustainability team. And it's run by the customers, employee, investors, and governments, for example. Governments are strengthening the regulations for the companies, and companies has to think that how they are lowering their CO2 emissions, for example. And all of these sets a need for the new digital data capabilities on the companies. And the companies has to concentrate to develop these capabilities, collect the information from different sources, analyzing that one, connect the business data to it, and get the insight for the right context. And as the sustainability is important, companies has to do the sustainable things without losing the profit and the growth goals. I have in the next slides 3 examples of every of these themes. First one, supply chain resilience. Recent crisis, the pandemic, war, and let's say the issues what this crisis made for the logistic stuff and getting the components from the suppliers. And companies had built before this kind of interlocked supply chains. So there is suppliers in the chain. And when this pandemic occurred, it made these companies in really serious problems because the whole supply chain collapsed. And they were not able to deliver anymore the products and the goods. And it's obvious that the need is to look the whole supply chain nowadays, or even we are not speaking about the chains anymore. We are speaking about the supply networks. So how we can react on time when we are occurring problem with one supplier or some logistics, where we are manufacturing the goods before we are delivering those to customer. And it needs a really fast reaction times. Personal customer experience. I'm buying everything from the web stores nowadays. And actually I'm buying directly from the manufacturer. And it's a trend what has also companies made, that they are offering directly for the customers via the web shops their products. And they want to understand better what the actual customer needs, what kind of experience they have when they are buying their products. And in this picture, for example, how we are making this kind of customer 360, how we understand when the customer is coming to our shop, that what is the customer history with us? Can we give some kind of discounts for them, for example? The second example, recommendations. When we know our customers, when we know how, when, where she or he is moving, we can recommend things directly to her or him. And the third one, as in digital times, how we are standing away from the traditional services to the digital service world and generating new digital products to our customers. And for all of this, we need to gather a lot of data from the different sources. There is a lot of external data sources, there is sensor techniques, there is different kind of like old history data in the CRMs about the customers. And this is not only for the B2C customers. I think this is coming more and more to the B2B world also. Then the third, sustainability. I have been talking with the building and facility companies, for example. And they are having the sustainability team to serve, of the course, to compete with against each others in the market. Of course, because of the energy prices what they are now having, and such things like that. And they are developing the thing that they are actually now measuring a lot of and collecting data from the buildings. How the people are living, what is the temperature when the people are actually satisfied, or the inhabitants satisfied to living in the building. How they optimize this living environment by getting insight from the environment, and how they can predict and actual automate the temperatures beforehand in the buildings. And of course, when they're getting the energy optimized, they can think about that how they actually make the energy for the, so how they can be more sustained in their environment. And Ismail, you know, there is a lot of similar examples, and depending what your company is doing, but I think we can find of every one of you some kind of like good things what we can enhance with the operative data, for example, and analysis. And its question is, are you ready to make the next step for the enhance your capabilities regarding the data? But we can help you. We are at Solid. And we are working around the data and analytics. I have been short time actually in Solid, and I was thinking a long time that what we are actually doing, because we are making so many interesting things. But all things what I see is related somehow to data. We are working with both of IT and the business. And I think that's nowadays the new era in sense that those two has been quite in the silos before. And we are helping the customers to break those silos and work with both of those and between those. We have been established in 1996, and we have already 1,600 employees in 6 countries, in Finland, Estonia, Sweden, Denmark, Belgium, and Germany. We have customers around the world. We are having or concentrating, let's say we have this kind of people in the software development, in strategy, data, and connectivity, and design, and in cloud. And we are growing fast. And it also tells that how important these things are and how fast these data-related things are going forward. This is what we do. We are really a design-driven company. We have over 150 designers working at Solid. And it's really huge amount and really important area where I think that most of the companies hasn't concentrated on. And in design, we identify and analyze our customers' digital and data opportunities. So we find the value out of data. We help you to find what to do and why. We help you also to build the data capabilities. So meaning that we can help you to build the data platforms, integrations, the analysis capabilities on top of that. And also we develop the specific software solutions for the customers, how they can extract the data, how they can, or from where they can publish the data for the users. So we are speaking about the mobile applications and other applications also. But we don't leave you or our customers in there. We are maintaining the environments and develop together with customers the data and analytics capabilities also. And we are keeping up running the systems and the cloud infrastructures. So I think it's continuous work what we have to do together. But that's my part. We are having questions and answer session after this. And if you have any questions after the session, please lift your hand and you will get the microphone. And in the online, just use the chat and we will get back those questions after the demo sessions. And I have with my colleague Tero Honko. Please, Tero, come on the stage.
Thank you, Tuomas.
And Tero will go through topic more precisely, that what is the history, why it's important, some examples, and so on. Enjoy.
Thanks.
And you too.
I try to enjoy. Thank you, Tuomas, and welcome to all of you here in Amanda, and also everyone you behind the camera. I have been working at Solita about 17 years already, kind of building different kind of data solutions to our customers. I have been working in different roles, but a few things that I have noticed or lately, something like 10 to 15 years ago, usually those data solutions were very kind of sales and finance centric. There was kind of focusing financial information and sales information and tracking those and following those. Then something like, 5 to 10 years ago, there was starting to come more and more functions or domains to the solutions what we are building. There were kind of more solutions about manufacturing, more solutions about procurement or logistics or marketing, etc. So the content in our data solutions started to become much more operational, or at least kind of to that direction. But at first they were still quite kind of a management level solutions, even though the content was about those operations. But then a few, let's say 2 or 3 years ago, there was kind of a started shift that also the contents in those solutions started to become much more not so kind of a management looking backwards and comparing our performance against, for example, the targets or something like that, but kind of a trying to find ways to actually do our daily operations more efficiently. So it kind of also the content started to become more operational. That is kind of what I have noticed in those projects. If we want to kind of investigate this a bit more, this area, kind of a bit broader history of different kind of operative system and how data is used in business contexts, here is some kind of a generic company or generic functions of a company. It seems to be some kind of a production company because there is some kind of manufacturing and raw material inventory, etc. This is just an example used here. But if we think about what was happening in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of kind of discussion about electronic data processing, or here in Finland we used to say ATK, that was kind of great thing. Of course, myself, I don't have kind of a first-hand experience from that era building those solutions, but still it can be seen what was happening during that time. So kind of the core business systems of the companies were built and implemented, for example, to production and for finance, some ERPs and finance systems for accounting, etc. And then, actually, in the year 2000, when I was studying, there was kind of information and communications technology was one kind of hype word and what was happening during that time. And I think that kind of built up transaction flows between those different operative systems. So kind of transactions could flow from the sales to production, and kind of the records were made automatically between the systems. But still it was kind of just single events or single transactions that were actually moved, not much context. Then something like 2010, about 10 years ago, also Solita was discussing and talking a lot about digitalization, that everything that can will be digitalized. And during that time, I think if we simplify a bit, companies built service layers on top of those their core business systems, what they have. So they started to build customer-facing systems, supplier-facing systems, etc., so that all customers could kind of interact with those core business systems and kind of trigger those processes, or order stuff, or do something like that. But now if we think that, okay, it was 10 years ago, we talked a lot about digitalization, so what's the kind of a theme for this decade? What's the theme for 20th, for the 20s? Well, obviously, it's only 2023 now, so we don't know that yet. There is still a lot of time to happen, but at least I think that somehow it will relate to data and analytics. I write down here data interoperability, so that everything that have been digitalized will get enhanced with data and analytics somehow. That's at least what I believe. And of course, if we follow what is happening, kind of how artificial intelligence and systems are evolving, I kind of believe that something like this might be happening in the future, so that we can actually use data to build some kind of a data interoperability layer in the companies and organizations that the organizations can use to kind of increase data context between different functions and systems and between processes, to increase the value of data and increase the value of those processes. It can be also used as a communication layer. Like Tuomas said, there is kind of a lot of visibility needed when the world is moving fast around us. So it is kind of very important to have correct visibility to what is happening around us, and so that you can, as fast as possible, to show visibility from sales to production, etc., is very important. And of course, you can use that to optimize and automate those processes also, increase the quality and speed, etc. But kind of the bad news here is that, of course, we don't have kind of out-of-the-box tools that we could just plug and play to build something like this, or to use something like this, that it happens like that. It's not like that. At least yet, I don't know what there will be in 5 years or something, but at the moment, it's not like that. If we want to take another kind of a bit another perspective, what is happening at the moment usually? Because if we think about business analytics, kind of analytics for business management, for example, I think in many cases at the moment, the information is flowing from, for example, sales or logistics or from production. It flows to these business analytics systems, and then kind of the management analyzes the data and plan, follow up, make decisions, and communicate the data, perhaps between different functions in some monthly meetings or quarterly meetings or whatever. And then kind of the steering is pushed back to the actual operations. And that might take quite a while to actually make this kind of a loop, the information from the operations to the business analytics layer, and then for the managers to analyze and think about, and then back in form of some kind of a steering back to the operation. So it takes a time. And we need to, if we want to speed up that in some way, there needs to be some kind of a other kind of framework to be used to distribute the data between functions and operations. And that might be some kind of a operational analytics layer or functionalities, capabilities. Not necessarily kind of a different tools or different technologies, but kind of capabilities for moving the data much faster between the different functionalities and operations. So that when something happens in the sales, they can kind of distribute the information immediately to other operations, which can then kind of receive that information and use that in their own operational plans or in their own data products, etc. Update those and again distribute the updated contents to others. And that might be something like real-time sales and operations planning, visibility, or data-driven requests from different processes to another, or from different operations to another. And shared customer and product usage information and events, for example. So that's kind of some background, very high-level background, and a bit theoretical also at this point. I have a couple of times mentioned the word operational analytics and business analytics already, but let's go to a kind of a think about what I actually mean by those words and how do I see those kind of activities. Traditionally, I think kind of business analytics is aiming to get insights from business data to steer business decisions in more strategic and tactical level. That is kind of I think that is kind of what many companies do already. Then on the other hand, the operational analytics is much more focused on analyzing the existing operations of the business and to provide insight to support the daily operations. So it's much more on daily level and operation level. What could we do better in our daily operations to get some better results? And I'm not kind of defining these words by technology. Of course, there are much more different characteristics, actually. If we look a bit closer, there are much more in detail characteristics in these two areas. Like, for example, that different user roles, for example, who are using business management and the operational management and the operational personnel, then different times perspective, different data refresh cycles, etc. The source data systems in business analytics, they are usually kind of ERPs, CRMs, etc. And in operational analytics, they are, I guess, much more kind of low-level systems, and usually also various different systems or instances for different countries, etc. And they can be like the machines in the production lines or some kind of in the equipment measurements from those. And the technical solution is also usually a bit different. Business analytics are usually done with some kind of a data platform that is centrally managed, and the operative analytics is often done within those operative systems or within some different kind of distributed reporting systems, for example, gathering the data to Excels and build integrations. But it is much more often distributed systems for operational analytics. But actually the most important thing, in my opinion, is the difference between these kind of what is the focus and what is the contextuality of these two. The focus in business analytics is kind of making the business decisions and following those effects of those decisions. And kind of it's the overall business meaning and the importance, quite often kind of the finance impact or the profitability of something to the company. And usually the information required for kind of making these decisions, it's usually kind of open-ended information. It's not so precise. It depends about the case, what is happening, that the decision makers need different kind of information, and we cannot beforehand define that. At least in all ways, we cannot kind of define beforehand what information is needed, or if you have this, then you will make correct decisions. It's not like that. But in operative analytics, we much more, or much often need to know much more specific what we are actually optimizing. Do we want to optimize this kind of speed or profitability, or what do we quality, or what do we want to optimize, and how we measure that, and how we actually do it, how we automate some decisions or some kind of steps. In operative analytics, we must be so much more precise what kind of data and what kind of content we use there. And it might be very difficult to if we go and ask someone who is running some operator or actor in some process, and we go and ask that what information there should be so that we can, for example, automate some step or something. It might be very hard to actually get that information what is needed. And because of that, it's hard to it needs to be more precise, but it is often hard to define what is the kind of correct data. Because of that, it is good to use kind of iterative development to start doing something and then learn and adjust what you do. So kind of going slowly to the correct direction. The other option is, of course, using analytics and some kind of, for example, process mining tools to analyze the process and with the help of these tools to get that, okay, it's actually this process step that has some problems and that for example, that machine is the bottleneck, etc. So we can actually try to use these tools to analyze those places which need some, or which are kind of the key things to improve. Then, is it really worth, if we think that, okay, what would be the benefits if we use some business, the capabilities what these traditional business analytics solutions have, what would be the benefit for more operational use cases? Of course, I think that the wider business context and financial context is one benefit. Because in many cases, if we have some operations and operational data or processes, we might be kind of missing the how much euros or what is the profitability of what we are doing here, or what is the profitability if we manage to do it faster, or what is the profitability if we manage to do it with higher quality or something. So we get kind of the whatever is the company's strategy, but based on kind of against that strategy, we get some insight for that process, how should it be improved in the future. Then the possibility to kind of compare our performance against history and also against some other benchmarks, some like other factories or other production lines or other units, etc. So we can actually benchmark ourselves. And in overall create more holistic view about the company and about the company's processes. And of course, using those shared capabilities that usually are already there for business analytics, there are a lot of good capabilities to analyze the data, share the data, etc. So those already existing capabilities, shared capabilities, can be very valuable also for more operational use cases. But okay, if it really is kind of a good thing or would be beneficial to use these capabilities, why it haven't been done yet? So what have been the problem? One thing is that at least, 10 years ago in many cases, the ownership of these data solutions, they were in many cases, the ownership was, for example, under the IT or under finance. It was kind of under one function. And that kind of, I think, caused that they concentrated more only for that, those use cases or those use cases who kind of were usually dealing with that specific function. And that's why there haven't been kind of enough focus for more operational cases. And of course, kind of the generic rear view window effect that the business analytics have used to look backwards, kind of analyzing what have happened and analyzing that against targets, and not focusing kind of what is happening now or happening in near future. And obviously, a lot of technical kind of limitations or shortcomings. How much data could we add to our solutions? How fast can we update the data in the solutions? To how many people we can actually license the solutions? These type of problems have been in the past. Also, the development pace might have been rather slow in the history, building the solutions with a bit old-fashioned tools, perhaps. So why now? Why can it be done now? Why are we talking this at the moment? One thing about those data organizations or ownership, at least what I have seen, that the ownership of data is kind of broke out from those single silos what they have had. At the moment, quite often I think that the data is recognized as its own entity, and there might be some data responsibilities assigned to a certain part of the organization, which is better compared to that it's under IT or something. But still, I think that even better would be if this kind of data ownership and the data solution ownership would be under the functions, kind of normal organizational structure, distributed to the organization. So the data responsibility should be where whoever owns the data and who operates the processes, basically. I think that would be the optimal situation. Well, mindset change. We tend to nowadays see data that we value data and see that, okay, we can actually use it in many ways. So we actually value data much more. And of course, there have been a lot of technical improvements. There is cloud environments that we can use. Those kind of the performance of different kind of systems enable a lot more data, a lot more speed, or kind of faster cycles how data can load it, and faster cycles how solutions can be created and developed. Kind of modern data ops tools to develop those solutions in very fast manner. And one key thing is the kind of combination that nowadays we can use centralized systems like centralized data platforms and centralized ways of working to actually build decentralized content. We can kind of distribute the content creation to different functions and to different parts in the organizations, but still use the centralized capabilities for that. And that is one key thing also. That will make kind of possible to use business analytics capabilities also for more operational use cases. That's kind of some background, if I would say that. And next, let's go to kind of see how we can actually enhance those processes, or how can it be done. First of all, okay, let's simplify things a bit. If we simplify things actually quite a lot, there are basically two different ways to enhance processes. We can, of course, do some kind of incremental innovation, kind of small steps, or then we can try to do the opposite, which is some kind of a disruptive innovation or making bigger changes, more effective changes. Of course, these kind of bigger, more effective changes, they usually add more value. They usually kind of add more business advantages to the company. And they are kind of the things where usually you should target, that the target should be some kind of a big change or big development. But in many cases, you shouldn't try to still, how you implement those, your plans or visions, you shouldn't implement those in kind of a waterfall or big bang adoption type. Of course, sometimes you have to do it like that. If we are talking about building new production lines or new factories or kind of implementing a new ERP system or something, I guess those need to be quite waterfall type of implementation projects. But if we are talking about how we use data and analytics to improve our processes and operations, then we can usually kind of slice the vision to a much smaller and much better manageable increments. And the key thing here is that you don't want to build it like that. You first build the platform and then build pipelines and then build something. But the key thing is here that each and every increment should provide you business value, and they should provide you validation about that, do you actually achieve the business value what you thought that you're gonna get. But also they should build the maturity, technical maturity, and perhaps also competences, etc. And they should give you some reusable components, technical components or data components that you can use in the following increments. And things will get kind of improving much faster that way. But before you have kind of those increments, before you have the vision, you have to, of course, think and plan what is the kind of desired outcome, what you would like to get, what is your current state. And kind of analyze, of course, for example, the plan, the vision is very, or the company strategy and the data strategy might affect that quite a lot. But also when you analyze your kind of current state and the current processes, what are the goals of those processes, or what kind of problems there might be, how can you improve those, and set some kind of a KPIs to follow, at okay, these are the things that I need to follow. If you analyze the current processes, for example, using process mining and process redesign, kind of asking some very concrete questions like, where is some variation and why? And are some resources overloaded, and what are the bottlenecks, etc. Are the process behaving as you have planned that it should behave? Because usually the kind of the plan of the process and the actual how it's done, they might be totally different things. So it's good to also notice that even if you just look about the plans, that okay, we have these kind of processes here in our process tool, but the reality might be something very different. And also analyzing those, what is the reality. And when you combine kind of the strategy level and your information about your current processes, you might actually get some concrete vision. If you only look about the strategy level things, the vision might be very kind of a non-concrete or very cloudy thing, which you don't actually know what it means. But if you take some look about those actual processes and the goals of the processes, you might be able to actually build some much more concrete vision that, okay, you want to create some new products or services or improve processes or build new processes, create some new pricing models, and add value for the customer, whatever is that vision. But it might be much more concrete if you kind of combine the vision or the strategy information and also the kind of current state analysis information. But then when you have some kind of a vision, the next step is of course to make the roadmap that takes account the current state, what kind of gaps there is, and the target state, and kind of a split that and design that in a way that every iteration what you create, what you're gonna make, or every kind of step in that roadmap will give you that business value and also that more capabilities, and also kind of validate that business value. So we call this kind of vertical slicing type of doing things, when we actually first analyze and plan a bit more in detail, then we actually kind of implement the changes. For example, in this case, implement the changes to the processes and implement the solution, build the solution, and then we also validate the results. Okay, did we achieve the results like we thought we should get the results? And what the changes might be in the processes, what we are actually doing. Well, it might be some kind of it depends about the case so much, but it can be some kind of optimization, automation, visibility. We can kind of, the people working in the process, we can somehow guide them, give them data, automate some steps, embed some contents in operative system to give some context, etc. And of course, we can trigger other processes, kind of request something and start other processes. And also build new ways to get some more data. Because often when you start doing things, then you notice, okay, we would like to improve this, like we would like to do also this kind of improvement, but actually we don't have the data. Okay, where can we get it? And then start building also those to actually make something happen in the future. So that was kind of some kind of a framework to go forward. And next I want to talk a couple of examples. And I have two examples here. The other one is road asphalting and maintenance. And the other one is kind of a business-to-consumer company's transformation journey, a bit more high level and a bit more concentrating to different things than the first one. The first example is kind of a road asphalting and maintenance. And well, if we think about the roads here in Finland, quite often the roads are there is quite a lot of different kind of asphalting defects, potholes and rutted roads. And also the repair of those problems might be quite slow. And of course the budgets are small, so we don't have enough money and budget to actually repair everything, so we have to somehow concentrate and optimize where we are focusing to. So at least in my opinion, I have quite often met these kind of problems when driving around Finland. So, well, what could be the vision state, or what would be the kind of a state for the roads, or the processes related to building and maintaining roads? It would be nice if there would be some kind of automated defect monitoring, so that when we actually see that there is some defects or problems with the roads, we could hopefully get the repairs much faster. And perhaps also optimize the budget in some way so that we don't kind of waste money fixing and building roads that might be still in a good shape or might be in areas that are not kind of places where they actually require so much maintenance. And perhaps even do some kind of a data-driven asphalting. So in the first, when the road is made and when the asphalt is made, to actually steer the asphalting process based on the data, to do it in a way that brings more quality. So this could be the vision state. And what could be here in between? What could be kind of the single steps or iterations that would perhaps take us towards the vision? Well, first of all, we might start using, because the asphalting, every summer here in Finland there are these asphalting projects around the country where they create new roads and new asphalt. And that is kind of the, I think, most critical part of the road quality, so that the asphalting in the first place would be originally done well. And if we think about that, when there is some asphalting project or road project, after the project is done, there is kind of the buyer is doing inspections after the project, and then also after the warranty period of that project. And in those inspections, they are trying to find that, okay, is this road quality kind of good enough? Is there some issues or defects or problems? And well, the road might be tens of kilometers or in some cases hundreds of kilometers road and asphalt there to do the inspection. And of course, for the people doing the actual inspections, there is a risk that they kind of miss something out, that they don't notice that actually there is problems or something. And of course, the problems might not be visible at the time when the inspection is done. It might be that there is some problems, but it looks now, but when there is traffic or winters or something, then actually it will kind of, the defect will kind of actualize. So how could we help those people doing the inspections? Well, we could get the data from those asphalting machines, which are kind of tracking the temperature of the tarmac and the road. They are kind of tracking the speed and different kind of measurements about that asphalting process. So we could take all the data from that process, analyze the data, and actually recognize some kind of potential defects. That, okay, at this point, when the asphalting was made, the temperatures were wrong or something like that. So we kind of recognize potential risk places in the road. And then we provide that information to the people doing the inspections. So it will be much more easier to do the inspection when you kind of have some kind of a mobile device that says that, okay, here is some problem because the temperatures were wrong or something like that. And in that way, hopefully, via the inspections, they notice much more potential quality issues, and already kind of the asphalt quality would be better, perhaps. Well, that might be the first thing to do. The second thing, or the second iteration or phase, might be that, okay, now when we are kind of gathering the asphalting data, we are having data about potential defects and issues in the road network. We can use that data to also steer road scanning activities. There are these kind of trucks or cars that have kind of measurement devices that evaluate the road quality if there is some problem. So we can actually steer the activities of those road scannings to feed back that, okay, here is potential defect. Go and scan that more often or something like that. So, and in that way, we can get more information. We can get the verification information that are those problems actually kind of turning to actual potholes or something like that. And we can start building kind of models predicting road quality with this information. And when we start kind of building some kind of models predicting the kind of defect monitoring or defect predictions to the road network, then we can also perhaps start kind of steering the maintenance events and optimize the maintenance events. That, okay, this is road where there in the next year there are kind of many potential defects in that specific road. And kind of, okay, we can kind of focus some maintenance activities to that road already before those actually turn into actual problems. And we can kind of embed information in operative systems or request operations from different processes from the maintenance activities. And hopefully this way we can increase the quality and also lower the kind of costs what it takes to maintain the roads or the good enough quality in the roads. And then if we notice that, okay, we do have data, and we of course track that is our data and our predictions, are those kind of are those valid and correct? And if it seems that yes, they are actually correct and they are useful, then we could start kind of steering the asphalting in the first place, perhaps, doing some kind of edge processing already in the asphalting machines and steer the asphalting. The only problem with this one is, of course, that the kind of the asphalting is done via subcontractors, so it's not kind of the who is responsible of maintaining the road. That is kind of a different organization, and it's kind of buying the asphalting from subcontractors. So how can we actually give some kind of a incentive also for the subcontractor to focus to the quality enough? How could we do that? Well, perhaps we could change our pricing model somehow and use kind of the data what we have about the potential defects and about the quality. For example, to create some kind of a bonus model for the subcontractors, or some kind of a penalty payment model, that if there is kind of a problems with the roads, kind of data-based problems with the roads, there is some kind of a penalties. That would be kind of a then when there is kind of euros in the table, that the subcontractor will get more money, they have some incentive to actually, or at least more incentive. I'm not saying that they wouldn't concentrate the quality if there is no any money, but still, I would believe that the incentive is higher when there is some more money also kind of in the stake. Well, what would be the architecture? What would be the technical capabilities and components for this case? Here is kind of a typical data platform reference architecture areas or components, kind of the data sources, the data pipelines, data storage, management and analysis capabilities, and then the data consumption on the right-hand side. And if we think that, okay, what happens in the first phase, in the first phase where we kind of gave information to the inspectors doing the warranty inspections. So at first we would perhaps need to get some kind of a sample data set and actually to profile that data. Is it any useful? Can we actually build a solution? There is no point of starting immediately implementing pipelines and implementing data models. Just get some sample data and evaluate that, is it really useful? Can you use the data to build something valuable? So that would be the first step. And if you see that, hey, this is actually I can do something with this data and we can actually recognize something by this data, then you actually kind of get all the required data from for example, the project data and the road data, contracts, and the actual asphalt values from those asphalting machine equipments. Build the pipelines. Some of those can be kind of a batch data pipelines, some of those might be near real-time stream pipelines. And then you model the data, you combine the data from different sources. That might be, well, in this case, the systems are, there are different IDs, different business codes in different systems in quite often. And in those cases, the data modeling can be a bit more complicated when you don't have kind of the same IDs in all the systems, or you don't have kind of a master data information, how things map together. And also, in this case, actually, the problem can also be that the data from different asphalting machine equipment is looking different, because they are different kind of equipments in different subcontractors, which are kind of making measurements a bit differently. So you have to synchronize, or we have to synchronize also the measurement data from different kind of equipments, not only kind of the business-related data, but also the measurement-related data. And after we have gathered and modeled this, we can build kind of the capabilities to recognize those potential issue places, and then distribute the information to the people who are doing the inspections. Kind of some guidance reports for quality control. And most likely some mobile use interfaces that when they are walking in the road, they can use their mobile devices to get the insight. And of course, we want to get the inspection results back. Okay, what was the outcome of that inspection, and how useful did the person who were doing the inspection, how useful did he feel that those suggestions were, or recommendations were? So he or she can kind of attack that, okay, input some data back, that was this useful recommendation. And based on that, we can again steer our calculations and evaluate that are we getting good results. And of course, in a step, when we do more steps, then we kind of are building the capabilities. In the second step, we are perhaps start sharing the data or kind of requesting events through APIs, etc. So we kind of build more capabilities. But actually what you can see here when we start doing these iterations, in this case, for example, here in the third iteration, which was the data-driven maintenance and optimization, here is actually not so much new components anymore and not so much new data elements so more. So you can actually start seeing that when you go forward, you kind of get the value from this existing content what you have made, both the technical capabilities, also the data contents, but of course also kind of the different kind of internal practicalities and ways of working and competence around this topic. Make it easier in the long run to build solutions that have business value. And also here in the fourth iteration, there is not so much new components. So you get actually higher speed. You can build more complex use cases with higher speeds when you have enough maturity or you have done already a couple of iterations, implemented a couple of use cases. And if we think about, okay, how fast things can go if you have kind of all the things in place, I have actually one example for you. It was actually last week on Wednesday, we had a customer meeting. We had a solution kind of that contained logistic data. There was routes, traffic amount, schedules, delays, and reasons for delays. So logistic data. And we have a customer meeting, and the customer requested that they would need also financial information to that solution. So kind of a costs of the traffic, what we have there, what is the costs for different traffic. And luckily, we had that financial information already in our data platform. It was there because of some other use case that we had already had the data there. And because we didn't have to get it from the original systems, that most likely would have take some more time, but because we had it already in the platform, we were enabled to model that data and combine that data to the logistic data what we have actually in one day. So in Thursday, my colleague sent me a message that, okay, now we have the data in our data platform's publish area. And then on the next day, or actually I started working with that already on Thursday, but then on Friday, I was able to kind of combine that data to that financial data, cost information to the logistics solution and publish that to production and send a message to customer that, okay, now you have the cost information also existing in that solution. So it was actually 2 days that it took to bring some more data and combine some more data to existing solution. So it can be very fast and it can be very agile if you have enough maturity and enough capabilities and data contents already available. Then if we think that what are the most critical to achieve kind of this kind of a scaling flexibility, what are the most critical parts here? I would say that the master data is one key thing. You have to be able to easily link the contents from different systems and contents, different kind of contents together. And also the data modeling, because the data model gives you the structure and meaning to the data. It's kind of the interface between the data and the end users and the developers, so that they can understand the things in the same way. That's why the data modeling is, in my opinion, very important part. Also the process modeling, that you actually know that what is your process and in which process step you have to use the data, and like I previously say, how you need to use the data to make some improvements to that process. It's good to understand the process in a detailed way. Then, as we all know, data becomes valuable only when it drives some action. So you have to use data in some way. There is no point just storing the data and keeping the data in platform. You have to use it. And that's why also the act on data part is kind of crucial. The ways how you do it or what kind of details there is, there can be reporting and visualization. You can embed those, use mobile apps. You can alert or trigger some things. You can share the data to other systems, etc. So there is kind of many ways how you can actually, how the data can interact with the process. There is different ways, and it depends very much about the process and the organization, what is the correct way. And there might be also that at first you build some visibility, and then you learn, and then next step you can try to automate something. So also in iterations. And of course the key thing is that you analyze the process and you analyze the effect of the changes. And you evaluate the data what you have. Is the quality good enough that you can actually use it? And are the effects what you get kind of the effects what you are looking for? And in addition, to be able to scale for new use cases, there are also important things like governance, development practicalities, data ops, how you maintain your systems and environments, security aspects, etc. So these are kind of some topics which might sometimes, especially in the beginning when you plan something, they might kind of a bit be forgotten, but those are actually very important to be able to scale in the future. So to simplify things, in the beginning, focus on building maturity, but also, of course, providing business value. And then in the end, when the maturity actually is getting higher, you can concentrate more and more to the business cases and more complex business cases. Let's see what time it is. Let's do a bit shorter example. This is the transformation journey for a B2C company. And this case, because this is also a kind of company transformation journey, this is somewhat kind of takes longer period actually, what I describe here. But the kind of format is about the same. In this case, the first problems when we started to working with this customer was that there was no detailed understanding about what drives sales and profitability, kind of customer profitability or product profitability. It was kind of missing the insights about that. And we started to create them platform to combine financial data with different kind of customer data and their product information and especially profitability. And of course, from that phase, they kind of get visibility to the profitability and be able to make kind of decisions that were more finance driven and get some more kind of cost effectiveness in their operation. But the main point at this point was perhaps building the capabilities to their own systems so that they could kind of do their development cycles much faster, be more flexible in the development and kind of build trust to the data, that they have solutions that actually provides correct data. And when they had kind of the basics on place, they started to look about some different kind of problems. For example, they had quite ineffective and laborious marketing. They were kind of sending the same marketing messages to all of their customers or potential customers. It was basically the same message, and also they kind of manually created quite a lot of different steps in the marketing. And what they think and what we did is that we started to building more kind of the data foundation to add more customer-related information about how the customer is using the products and the services, what kind of contents the customer is consuming, etc., to start creating customer profiles. And then using that customer profile information to kind of doing personalized marketing, and of course also automating the marketing steps. But in this case, they were kind of able to get much higher conversion rates to the marketing, increase their sales, and also reduce customer loss due to the fact that we can recognize if there is some customers who are not, for example, using their services anymore so often. We can kind of recognize that, okay, there is potential kind of a customer who is kind of going away, and then we can kind of target some offers for that specific customer. After that phase, they still felt that, okay, they had already some platform in place. They were using data for this marketing case quite efficiently and nicely, but still kind of when thinking about the wide organization and different functions and different operation in the organization, there were not enough visibility. So they didn't kind of see the data, what they already had and what they were already using in organization so widely, and they didn't understand the possibilities. And in the next phase, they kind of nurtured the data culture, what they had, and improved their data skills and competencies, and start actually using self-service analytics systems so that people around the organization, they don't have to ask some report or analysis, they can start to do those by themselves and kind of start learning to work with the data themselves. And that understanding kind of gave them possibility then to recognize kind of data opportunities much better, that how can they use data also in other for other use cases in different ways. And for example, how they then after that started to use the data, they wanted to start steering the customer interactions because they already had customer profiles built for marketing, but they wanted to start using the customer profiles also with all the other interactions what they had with the customers. So building different kind of distributing the information to different customer-facing systems, what they had, and kind of distributing customer profile-based recommendation to customer service, to their website, to their web shops, to if some customer would actually walk into their store, in the store they had the information about the customer when the customer came and said who he or she was. The salespersons actually had the information about the customer, all the services and products what he or she have bought, and the recommendations what could be tried to sell and potential kind of offers for that specific customer. And that, of course, they were able to get higher conversion rates and better customer satisfaction in this way. Those were the examples. Let's have a couple of words and a couple of slides still. Let's see what time is it. I have always too less time, but let's try to do it anyway. How to get started. Here are some, it's rather small, but here are some potential use cases. I have now mentioned a couple of more operative use cases to use data and analytics. And of course, the topic or the target can usually be something like enhancing products or streamlining processes, building data or recognizing data-driven opportunities, grow sales, improve customer value. So those are kind of typical high-level targets. But there are many different kind of use cases for different functionalities or functions in the organization. on more planning level, management level, but then also on very low level, like daily operations. And for example, if we think about the road asphalting and maintenance case, there was kind of elements from, for example, maintenance planning, predictive maintenance, data-driven service events, data-driven pricing, and also production quality. So, for example, these were the elements in road asphalting case. Then in this transformation journey case, for example, there was, of course, this profiling and content recommendations, optimized and automized marketing, personalized sales actions, etc. Kind of building a lifetime value for the customer. These kind of elements were in this case. I've also third case to mention here, which is kind of loading optimization or optimizing shipment loading and the shipments already within the sales phase. And this, well, because this optimizing is actually optimizing the containers. This is done for a business-to-business company who is kind of selling quite large products to customers. And in the sales phase, in the kind of web shop what they have, the sales orders or the sales are optimized so in a way that they always try to sell full or almost full containers, so that it kind of minimizes the shipment costs or the logistic cost per sold product. So already in the sales phase, they are actually optimizing what they are selling to the customer and what kind of amounts of product the customer is buying, so that it would fill kind of the containers would be filled as much as possible. So that's also one use case with a bit different areas here. Well, how should you start and how to move forward if you want to use data and analytics to improve operative processes? Of course, first step is to identify the value. That is always the first step. Don't go to think about technologies, even though for sometimes they are very interesting to all the different things with those. But still, first, identify the value and the business case. And it depends a bit that how mature is the organization who is kind of starting. If the organization is perhaps kind of starting this data and analytics journey, you might think about the strategy level, about data strategy and business strategy, and create some kind of a data vision. How do you want to use the data in your organization? But the most important thing is to recognize the business cases. What kind of business cases would be valuable? Then think about, in your organization, do you have some kind of a gaps that actually you cannot start implementing these immediately? You have to do something first, kind of building the organizational capabilities or removing some organizational bottlenecks or something like that. Some kind of a transformation program, for example, first. And of course, if you are already working or in a bit more mature organization, you can do this, and you already have these kind of things in place. You can start moving quite forward to actually a bit closer to the implementation. And the first step would be to design the outcome. What are you trying to achieve? How would the solution impact to the processes? So basically, kind of evaluating the to-be business requirements. What kind of business requirements the solution would have? And what are the to-be data requirements? What the solution or the data products, what you might be building, what to-be requirement it have. After those, when you know the business case and you kind of have details about what is the desired outcome, you can evaluate your current state. Where are you now? What kind of from data perspective, from processes perspective, and from technical platforms perspective, where are you now, and what kind of gaps you have. And based on this information, you can create the to-be platform requirements for the platform. Okay, these steps I need to take in the platform, and based on these analyses, you actually get the roadmap and the iterations, what I was kind of already quite strongly focusing in the previous slides. Now you are able to build some kind of a roadmap and plan the iterations. And of course, then in the execute and sales phase, you actually start following that plan what you have. To be a bit more precise what happens there, you of course build the data foundation and technical capabilities. You build some data and governance structures and solutions, development practicalities and skills, etc. And of course, kind of redesigning and transformation for those processes and doing process mining, etc. And the good thing is that you don't have to get from time-wise, if we think about this doesn't have to take too long. It can be something like few weeks from, well, maximum few months per one phase in this. So kind of identifying value from few weeks to a couple of months. Then designing and creating the roadmap. It can be very fast iterations. And how you can speed things up is the fact that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. What are you going to do in each of these phases? Because, well, for example, we have done quite many different kind of implementation in different kind of organizations, and there is quite a lot of kind of different kind of modules that can be used, and those modules already contain, for example, phasing, workshops, material templates, etc. for these different phases. How you actually create and define those business cases, how you prioritize those business cases, how you evaluate your kind of organizational capabilities, how you define those data products or data requirements, how you plan the target architecture, how you evaluate technologies, and how you, for example, build development playbooks so that when the development starts, it will actually follow kind of best practices or the most suitable practices for your organization. So there are kind of things you can use to speed things up and get moving forward much faster. Yeah, that was the presentation. I about managed to get it at time, but yeah, any questions? There is microphone.
Hi. Yeah, I have a question related to, you were talking about data interoperability and a layer of interoperability.
Yep.
So that you could reuse the data. What do you think about the challenges of giving semantic and metadata to that data so that you can actually reuse it, the granularity?
Yes.
And then centralized versus distributed storage. When today we are moving from basically big data to edge systems. So do you have any good insights on that? Thank you.
Thanks about the question. I think that the kind of metadata-driven solutions is kind of one thing that is been in talks lately. And myself, I think that the metadata is coming much more important in the future. And it can give you kind of the benefit of automating things in the future to use the metadata. And there are already solutions that you can use to kind of do data ops in a metadata-driven way or model things based on the metadata. But I think there is much more to improve in that area. And about that centralized versus distributed, that is also one interesting conversation and these different kind of approaches, for example, data mesh way of working and implementing. I think that kind of depends a lot about the case and a lot about the organization. I think you should, or we should have some kind of a central, like I said, centralized capabilities and centralized ways of working, but the actual building of the solutions and working with the solutions, it must be somehow distributed to be able to scale and to be able to build better solutions, because the people working in the different functions around the organizations, they have the best insights, what they need, and how to build things. So I think that the answer in the future is not going fully centralized or fully distributed, but actually somewhat both worlds to leverage capabilities.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. My name is Kenneth Korhonen. I'm from Stereoscape. We basically sell solutions that improve the digital maturity of organizations. So I see potential maturity there, or collaboration opportunities. But my question is related to when you're collecting the operational data, who would you normally involve in this, and who would champion these kinds of projects?
Do you mean like from the customer's organization, or
from the customer's organization? I'm wondering.
It depends. If it's, for example, some kind of equipment that you want to get the data from equipment, of course, then R&D is one kind of a part of the organization. I would say that it's the organization who is involved in that specific process or process step, whatever is the function. And that is kind of the core people from there. But of course, if they don't have, they might have some ideas, but they don't have kind of the competences to get the data. And of course, then after that, we might come to IT might have something to help, but to be honest, quite often the IT might have, or they might not have the most modern solutions for getting operational data to systems.
Yeah, my background is I'm a lean expert with 17 years of practical lean experience, and my experience is in cultures where there's a very hierarchical, it's very important to get that support from the top level of management. So would you experience in these cases like challenges when you're trying to navigate in these kinds of cultures that aren't really mature yet? So what kind of roadblocks would you experience there?
Well, something what we have done in those kind of hierarchical organizations, we have done different kind of discovery for the business cases that we have involved people from the management and also people from the operations to the same event, and spend, for example, a whole day there to discuss that what kind of things we could do to improve, and in that way trying to find kind of that the people would have similar understanding about our current situation and about what kind of steps would be beneficial to the processes, and kind of distribute information or visibility between the management layer and the operative layer.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello, Hannu Toivola from Holby Payment Services. Thanks for the excellent presentation. Where and how would you use designers, I mean service designers, UX designers, when building these data solutions?
I would use those already in the beginning, helping to recognize the business cases. It would be very valuable there, but also during the projects and during the process, because, well, this would need to be some kind of a process that continue. In quite often, I see that designers are used in the first phase to evaluate the business cases and find the business cases, but then kind of people change and there are different people to actually implement. And there might be gaps in the understanding at that point. And also the kind of the benefits of using business designers is not kind of fully used in the implementation phase. So what I see what would be the optimal situation if you actually can use business designers already from the beginning when you find the business cases, but also have business designer in the team who is actually implementing the solution. That would be the kind of best case in my opinion.
And also, I think it's good to use designers on not only to recognize the business case, but I think for facilitating people's minds to get ideas that what kind of new services, for example, we would need and possibilities we have. Because I think that in organizations there is a lot of people who have their ideas, but probably there is some kind of mentally lock or something that they are not coming outside, and we are helping customers also on that side, so finding the opportunities in sense.
Thank you.
Any questions? I have a couple of questions from the online listeners. There is Mosafov is asking, do you have interventions in medical devices maintenance optimization? I can answer for that. Yes, we have. Actually, I have one of the cases what's going on, and there we are a lot of products in different places, and we are recognizing, of course, that where the devices are, and we are looking from the historical data that what kind of part has been broken, what kind of things has happened before that, so kind of like predicting that what's going to happen, so we can actually, before it's going to break, change the device and stuff like that. Also optimizing the route of the service people, because in certain cases, I think if we are talking about products which are, for example, across the world, and we are utilizing the own service personnels or some kind of like partner service personnel. So we have to optimize that. Is it wise to use our own, or are we using our partners in that case? And then we have some other cases also in the maintenance optimization for the other industry areas. Ilmo is asking, I think this is Tero for you, that any recommendation or pointers on tools and articles for data modeling you could share?
Yeah, data modeling is rather kind of wide area. Of course, the key thing is to do the conceptual modeling first, to actually understand the data, what the business is talking about, and what data there is in the organization, to understand that. And then when kind of we have, or you have the data, conceptual level data understanding, then you can move kind of a bit more concrete to the logical, getting the kind of logical data models and possibly physical data models. And of course, in an optimal case, you can create the physical models from your kind of logical level models, data models. I don't, perhaps there's so many different kind of tools, so perhaps I don't want to mention any specific tools. Of course, for the logical level modeling, the tool, I think in that area, the tool is not so relevant, because the key thing is to get the insight and get the understanding within the business and within the developers that they are on the same page. And then when you move to the more concrete implementation and more detailed modeling, then actually the tool have a bigger impact also.
Thanks. Then a question, how do you see, are there certain industry sectors for example, media, process industry, etc., or functions, marketing, production, etc., in which the utilization of operational analytical solutions and the related use cases are more established or mature than in others. I can, because I'm working with the sales and marketing, and I think that the marketing has been quite long time already gathering the information and utilizing that from their operational processes in sense. And that they are quite in the forward. And I think normally it's in the B2C business if we think overall. But now I'm working a lot with industrial companies and device manufacturers. And they are actually, for the parts and service business, they are utilizing a lot of gathering the information from the device itself so they can enhance the service business and the spare part service. And if you see this typical companies like that, over 50% of revenue is coming for the service side. So there is a need for kind of using the data analytics to measure that when the device is going to break, so they can actually be proactive to offering the new equipment or spare parts for that one, because the utilization rate has to be so high. I think there is still one, and then I think the time is up. So we are working with some companies in Germany and that have just started their journey to being more data-driven. What would you focus on at the beginning when it comes to operative processes?
Of course, first step would be to understand building the data vision and data strategy, perhaps first, how you want to actually, and of course business strategy and business environment, understanding that. But then kind of recognizing those most important processes, what are the key processes what the company have against that strategy and vision. Kind of for this strategy, these are the processes where I have to kind of be high quality and focus to these, and somehow those also to what process you should focus that needs to come from the strategy, so that you kind of are in the same ballpark area. And then when you have that processes, okay, these are my key processes, you can start to dig into those business cases and kind of analyzing the processes, do process mining and process analysis.
Thank you. I think time is up, and it was really nice to see that many of you came here today, because it has been quite extraordinary times now, 4 years. So it's, for me at least, it's nice to see that you are here. So, but thank you, and if you have any questions, at least I'm staying a while in here, and you can come and talk.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.